Samurai aren't really common in the world of Naruto, and they're not very well known to the fan base neither. But interestingly, they go way back to the Land of Waves. We get to see 2 samurai hired by Gato for protection as personal bodyguards, Zori and Waraji, which we actually get to see pop up again in Naruto Shippuden as a little Easter egg. The next time we get to see samurai is literally in Shippuden when Sasuke slaughtered them at the 5 Kage Summit. He made extreme quick work of the Land of Iron samurai, and interestingly enough, the Land of Iron is the only nation that still uses samurai over ninja for their military. Samurai more or less kind of took on the role of gun for hire as they fizzled out in popularity around the world. We aren't entirely sure why they fizzled out, but I'm getting a little held in myself. We'll get to that in a second. Because obviously you cannot talk about samurai and then just leave out the only samurai that everyone can name, Mefune. Being the general of the Land of Iron samurai, naturally he's the most powerful and widely known inside not only the Naruto world, but the fan base as well. Not much is known as far as the history of the samurai in the Naruto universe, however it is widely believed that the samurai were just as widespread as ninja were at some point in time. My personal headcanon theory is that they fizzled out around the same time that ninjutsu started becoming popular. Let's remember, ninjutsu are ninja specific techniques, and the second Hokage invented a fuck ton of ninjutsu. Some ninjutsu techniques were used before Hashirama and Tobirama and their generation, but even then they still mostly fought with swords. Throughout Naruto fights, genjutsu, taijutsu are both used, but ninjutsu takes center stage majority of the time. But obviously somebody had to invent these techniques at some point in time. So while sure, some of these techniques may go as far back to before Hashirama, but most of them don't, and my personal theory is that around the time of Hashirama and Tobirama, they started inventing these techniques, passing them down, and just spreading them around the world. Obviously, not just Tobirama and Hashirama did that. Ninjutsu were kind of popping up all over the world, but I'm kind of using them because everybody knows what generation I'm talking about if I talk about Hashirama's generation. We're talking about around the same time the birth of Konoha was happening, which lines up because with the birth of Konoha comes formal training. It's no longer what one clan knows is passed down to their clan. It becomes a formal training. If you are a ninja of the hidden leaf, you receive ninja training just like anybody else. And while there are still clan-specific techniques, you are still taught a variety of basic ninjutsu that you probably wouldn't have been taught if you didn't belong to a certain clan. And so my theory is, right around this time is probably around the time that samurai started to phase out. If you're fighting someone who can throw a fireball at you the size of the house that you live in, you with your sword probably isn't going to do much. So that's my personal theory on where the samurai went. But what's the difference between ninja and samurai in the Naruto world? Well, just like ninja, the samurai are a military force, but unlike ninja, they lack ninja teachings like ninjutsu, genjutsu, and in combat they're shown to use taijutsu, but not nearly as often as they bring out their swords. Just like ninja, they do utilize chakra, and they fuse it with their blade for better cutting power, and even to turn it into some fucking long-range attacks, which is pretty fucking sick. And we get to see this when Sasuke pulls up and fights them at the 5 Kage Summit. This shows that they're clearly talented in chakra control, but to be honest, outside of chakra control and being just kenjutsu masters, they don't have much in their arsenal. Which actually brings me to how powerful they are. Answering that question is just like answering how strong ninjas are. It varies a fuck ton. Of course, we have the original samurai that were shown in the Land of Waves arc, and they are absolutely nothing. And then we go to a group of people like the Land of Iron samurai. And sure, 5 Kage Summit Sasuke absolutely folded their shit. They had no chance, but that's still far above the other samurai that were shown, and I would argue this puts them pretty highly if they were to be shown in OG Naruto. At worst, they're Kakashi level from early on, and that's not bad. That's high Jonin level right there. Especially considering the fact that they can't even use ninjutsu. That's pretty impressive. And they always roll in packs. It's usually not one samurai. So if you're getting jumped by a series of samurai that are high Jonin level, that would have been a legitimate threat in OG Naruto. But, of course, there's always gonna be the stronger one out there. Mefune is the most powerful samurai we ever see. To put it into perspective, he fought Hanzo. Granted, a weaker version of Hanzo from what I can tell, but regardless, he was fast enough to jump in and block Hanzo's attack, as well as, way more impressively, attack Hanzo before he was able to perform a fucking hand sign. Do you know how fast you have to be for someone to slice you down before you can move your fingers? And Hanzo even said, this is what they meant when they said ninjutsu doesn't work on you. You don't allow time to weave hand signs. Straight up saying, or at the very least heavily implying, Mefune is popular for doing this attack. He went on to cut Hanzo's weapon clean in half. I feel like it's at this time that I should probably explain who Hanzo is. Hanzo is the sole reason the Great Sannin are called the Great Sannin. They survived a fight with him, and he considered that strong enough for them to get their own name. He is the reason that they're called the Great Sannin, a nickname that transcends Hanzo's death and sticks with them for the entire show. So for Mefune to do anything to Hanzo, even if it's a weaker version of Hanzo, is still absolutely crazy. And unfortunately, it's one of the strongest feats that Mefune has. Honestly, the strongest feat any samurai has, from my knowledge. And it really sucks because I'm very, very interested in the samurai. They seem so badass when not up against crazy powerhouses. I would have loved to see them play a much bigger role in OG Naruto. They have armies of these guys. Can you imagine an army of samurai pulling up? That would have been so cool. They could have been considered actual threats instead of just watered down ninja. But anyway, that's really all I could dig up on the samurai. Like I said, there's not a lot to be known. They're not really elaborated on. They're not shown too much. From my research and my memory, I can only find 2 instances of legitimate samurai showing up.